All right, so last night, I guess more like yesterday afternoon-ish, early evening, regardless. Yesterday, Clay and I went and we watched Puss in Boots 2, officially known as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Yes, we were going a little out of order in DreamWorks. We went from Shark Tale, skipped all the way to the new movie. But two reasons. One, by the time we got done with this one, we didn't know if it would be available. It certainly probably wouldn't still be in theaters, so just trying to watch it while we can, especially on the big screen. I remember when we were watching all the Disney movies, we did the same thing with Raya. We're like, it's out, let's go ahead and just see it. And then when we get to it in the marathon, depending on how soon it's been, we might watch it again, we might skip it. With Raya, we ended up watching it again. That was reason number one. Reason number two was I just kept hearing this movie was phenomenal, and then that it would be a genuine detriment to have not seen it. I have, like, a good friend of mine who was like, I was going to watch Avatar 2 with him, but I ended up being sick. But he was like, I'm going to go and still watch it. And he watched a double feature. He saw Avatar and he watched Puss in Boots. He's like, I genuinely liked Avatar. Is it phenomenal? No, but I liked it. And I think Puss in Boots is the better movie. Like, this movie unironically, legitimately slaps. It's so good. And that's the vibe I kept getting. Anytime I see anything about it, it's like, oh yeah, its reviews are stellar. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's like a 90-something%, with the average score being like a 7.6, 75 on Metacritic. You're like, all right, so if the average score is like a 7.5 out of 10, that's pretty damn good. Like, that. This sounds pretty solid. And I remember I was on Wikipedia, just like, not like really trying to look at spoilers. I was like, all right, like, what is the cast? Like, who are the characters in the movie? Because it's a Shrek movie. It's a fairy tale movie. What are the fairy tales being represented? And literally, I saw Goldilocks, the head of the Three Bears crime syndicate, and went, I don't want to read anything else. I need to just go see this. That sounds so bonkers, what the fuck, and amazing. Clay, we gotta see this movie, and so we agreed to watch it tomorrow, which was yesterday, because what I'm talking about happened 2 days ago. It almost sounded like a Monogatari timeline, but regardless, we watched the movie. I went in with, admittedly, very lofty expectations, because I just kept hearing, it's good, it's great, it's fantastic, it's magnificent. And when I left the movie, I felt that my expectations were not only met, they were exceeded. This movie is phenomenal. I strongly urge you to go see it. Like, if you like animation, you have to watch this movie. You owe it to yourself to watch this movie. It's gorgeous. It looks so good. Like, it's so colorful. There's so much energy. Like, it just pops. I remember a few years ago, because I was telling Clay this yesterday. He and I watched Castlevania Season 2 together when it came out, or like not too long after it came out. And I remember the fights in that show. Like, whenever it would happen, the animation speed, like, everything just slowed down. And it was to really emphasize, like, the choreography and the blocking of just the fight scenes. And I felt like they were well staged. But I was like, but why is it so slow? These are vampires fighting a vampire hunter, a witch. Well, she's a witch, she's like a magic user, and a vampire. This feels like it should be really quick, frenetic, shit is constantly going on, and instead it's really slow. I got what they were going for, but for me it didn't quite work. This movie, to me, is what they were trying to really do, because when you get action scenes in here, it does go a lot slower. But I feel like it's kind of like watching Spider-Verse, where it feels like I was watching a comic book at times, especially I just see this hair in front of my eye, but, like, it feels like every frame, every image, it's just trying to pop and be like, look at this. Like, all right, someone's running at someone, and then it just kind of slows down, but less like, let's do a slow-mo shot. And we're just like, we're going to have this image, like, in your mind, and then this image in your mind, and, like, we're going to rotate the camera, which you're not really technically doing because you're drawing, but we're going to rotate the drawing, and, like, oh, that shot's so cool, oh, that was so cool, yo, that dude just exploded into confetti, which is a real thing that happens in this movie several times. People explode into confetti. It's amazing. It's so fun to watch. Like, it's a movie. I will say this. This is a movie. This is going to sound a lot worse than I mean it. This is a movie where if you could watch it muted and just watch the animation, I think it would still be a phenomenal movie. And I'm not trying to say, like, yeah, that would be so much better because the dialogue is shit and the writing is terrible. No. It's great. This movie is so funny. Like, there were so many moments where I was just, like, laughing, where I was just, like, it was a very small theater, so I didn't want to laugh super loud and just, like, draw a lot of attention to myself. It was like, oh boy, that would be weird. But there were a lot of moments where I'm like, that's really funny. That's a really good joke. Unfortunately, I'll admit I can't think of a lot off the top of my head, but it was just one of those movies where, like, there's just so much shit being thrown at me that's funny or genuinely interesting or genuinely heartfelt. Oh gosh. Okay, so here's a line. So Puss gets this, like, therapy dog as a companion who is the most annoyingly saccharine character I've ever seen, and I watched every episode of Friendship is Magic, and I think this dog, Perito, that's what they call, I think he's hilarious. Like, I actually love how annoyingly saccharine he is. And he talks about how he's never really had a name, but they call him Perito, which I don't actually know what that means. I assume that probably means something like little dogs. I think perro in Spanish means dog. But he's like, oh yeah, I've never really had a name before. You know, I've been called a lot of different names, you know, like dog, stupid dog, hey you over there, that thing, shit for brains. Which they bleep it out, just shit for brains. And that got me. And there's another scene later where he's like Goldilocks and the bear, like she and Baby Bear are roasting each other. And then Perito gets in on the roast and then just starts bleeping every word he says. And I was laughing so hard at that. It was so cool. There's a scene really early, because the basic plot of the movie, if you've seen the trailer, is Puss in Boots has died 8 times. And he is now on his last life. And he has become literally deathly afraid of dying. So he wants to steal a map that will lead him to a, like, let me try that again. Deathly afraid of dying, so he goes to steal a treasure map that will lead him to the wishing star, so he can get his wish, which is to get his lives back, so he can go back to being everyone's favorite fearless hero, which is like a song that plays a few times in the movie. It's really catchy. I like it. Like, and literally, like, the first scene is he's at this big party with this music playing, and he's dancing, and he's having a good time, and then he gets attacked by guards, and so he's like, hey, why'd the music stop? Play my theme music. And then just starts beating the shit out of him, and then it ends with him fighting a giant. And you're like, well, this is the first 5 minutes, like the first 3 minutes of Shark Tale. Maybe want to turn the movie off. And yeah, I mean, if you've seen my Shark Tale video, by the end of it, not even by the end of it, it was the next day. It was like, you know, maybe there was more to this movie than meets the eye. Like, I gotta give it its credit, but it was not pleasant to sit through. And, like, literally the first 3 minutes had so many bad jokes that I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here anymore. Here, like, the first 5 minutes is better than anything in Shark Tale. Like, this is so good, and the movie just gets better, because holy shit. Yes, the plot is literally just Wacko's wish, because I thought of that a few times. I was like, wait, it's a bunch of different people trying to go to the wishing star and out racing each other. Where have I seen this before? But it's still so good and entertaining. But anyways, so yeah, the whole plot of the movie is I've died 8 times. And you get a montage of all the times he's died pretty early on, and it's pretty funny. There's literally one where he's drunk, I think, like, holding a glass of milk. You're like, yeah, cats always land on their feet. Let me show you. This was death number 3. John Mulaney plays one of the villains. He is Little Jack Horner, you know, the guy who sat in his corner with his Christmas pie, and he put in his thumb, pulled out a plum, and said, what a good boy am I. But now he's Big Jack Horner, and just this, he's so funny. Like, he is very over-the-top, cartoonishly evil, and every time he's on screen, I was laughing. Anytime he said anything, I was laughing. He's so much fun, and, like, he literally, it's like his whole shtick is he collects magic items because he has an obsession with magic and magical creatures and, like, wants to hoard them all. Think of it as, like, if Farquaad collected magical creatures and instead of, like, I'm going to throw them in internment camps, it's like, I want to use them for, like, their abilities. And, like, he just packs a bunch of shit, and he packs a conscience ring. He's like, hi, I'm your conscience. Jimmy Stewart, that's it. I was like, why does this voice sound so familiar to me? Like, it's basically a Jimmy Stewart impression the entire time. And he's trying to convince Jack Horner to not be a terrible person. But Jack is so terrible, knows that he's terrible, and loves that he's terrible. It just doesn't work. That's gold. Like, he assembles his baker's dozen, like his elite guards, and they keep dying throughout the movie. And he keeps, like, killing them or sending them to their deaths. And it's amazing. When the characters actually get into the, like, dark enchanted forest with the map, depending on who holds the map, the actual layout of the forest starts to change. Kind of depending on what their, like, how selfish they are, what are their, like, internal, like, struggles, obstacles, all that shit. And, like, that's so cool. That's such a good idea. I love seeing that. Like, the scenes with Goldilocks and the bears. Okay, so first off, they're all aggressively Cockney. And it's like, oh yeah, baby, you're a fucking moron, isn't it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I could watch a movie with just these 4 characters and be very entertained by it. This is great. I love this movie. And deadass, Goldilocks and the 3 Cockney bears almost made me cry multiple times. It was like, I did not expect this movie to be just gripping my heartstrings like it was a Trails game, like it was a Sky game, but man, like, I actually almost cried. The relationship with Puss and Kitty is a lot of fun. The whole, what was the, Santa Cloma, I think, was it? It was like this big event that happened to them where she's really mad at Puss, and Puss later reveals what it is. You're like, oh, yeah, you're a real dick. And then when he confronts her about it, it's like, look, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry I did that. She's like, you don't have anything to be sorry about. I'm equally at fault. Like, it's a really funny scene, and I actually really like what it does for Puss's character. He's like, yeah, I can never compete with your greatest love, yourself. You love yourself more than you can ever love anyone else. And I think it's time I talk about the best part of the movie. Now, this is a movie where the entire movie is the best part of the movie because everything just works. At one point, I, like, leaned over to Clay and I was like, this movie feels like they took every idea they had and just kept throwing it at the wall to see what stuck, and everything stuck. That's how good it is. Like, go see it. But now I am going to, like, spoil something because this is my favorite aspect of the movie. So I'll give you a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now I will start to spoil shit. I'm not really going to talk about, like, the ending and all that. I'm just going to talk about this one thing. Of the antagonists of the movie, there's your Goldilocks and the bears, there's Jack Horner, and then there's the big bad wolf. The big bad wolf is Death. He is the Grim Reaper. And now that Puss has died 8 times, he's after him. And Puss doesn't realize it's Death. At first, he just thinks it's this very talented bounty hunter. And because I went in knowing who the big bad wolf was. I knew that he was Death. And I love his first scene where, you know, Puss is like, yeah, I've got 1 life. Bartender, you know, give me more extra strong cream. I just want to drown my sorrow, blah, 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 blah. It's annoying. It's frustrating. And then, the bartender walks off. Puss is alone. And then you just hear this whistle. Just like this. Like, I don't actually remember how the tune went. But you just hear this whistle, and then next to Puss is just this large, grayish, silvery, whitish wolf wearing a hood just sitting there. And you're like, oh, that's unsettling. That's not okay. And I just love the shit he says to him in the first conversation, because it's one of those where if you know what he is, you're like, oh, literally everything he said made just perfect fucking sense. And if you don't, looking at it later, like, oh yeah, he was basically telling him, I'm literally deaf and I'm after you. He's like, can I have your autograph? I've been after you. I've been following you for a long time. And then slips him like a wanted poster for Puss. He's like, can you sign right here, right where it's like pointing at dead, like in the Dead or Alive? This is like, bounty hunter. Like, your reward will not come easy. And then I love Death's response. Like, he pulls back, earlier he's pulled back his hood. He's got these big red eyes. What big eyes you have, which they never actually say in the movie. But there's so many good shots of his eyes, and they're just glowing red. You just get like these red dots, and there's one point where like Puss is running in terror, and he just sees the wolf's eyes following him in the trees. Like, it's so cool. The visuals are so good. It's a phenomenal movie. So the wolf, he's like, yeah, every man says that he's gonna be the one to defeat me, but no one's escaped me yet. And he just like reaches over the bar, pours himself a drink. I don't know what kind of drink it was. I kind of hope he literally poured himself poison because he's deaf. Like, that to me would be really funny. But he's like, yeah, like, no one's been able to defeat me. Everyone says they will, but it is what it is. And then, he fights Puss, kicks his ass, like, disarms him multiple times. Not literally, but, like, knocks the sword away. And then he's just staring at him like, go on. Pick it up. Pick it up. And he doesn't. Puss just runs off. So there's a part, like, during the fight where, because Death, he doesn't use a scythe, he dual wields sickles, which is such a cool fucking image of this giant hulking wolf with these piercing red garnet eyes, dual wielding sickles, slowly walking towards you. Like, God, I wish this was a Disney movie just so I could fight this dude in Kingdom Hearts. Like, I kid you not. They're like, oh God, like during the final fight where he like takes his sickles, carves like a wreath of fire around the two of them so Puss can't escape, kicks his sword back to him and tells him, pick it up. And then they just start going at it. It's like, I wish I could fight this in Kingdom Hearts. This is so cool. This is so good. Oh my God. I love this movie, man. There's so many other moments in the movie where you'll just hear the whistle, and whatever Puss is doing, he just stops. His hair stands up, and he just starts looking. It's not even that he's like, where is he? Where is he? He just knows where he is. He just turns around, and then there's the wolf just standing behind him. Not like waving at him like, hi, I'm gonna kill you. He's just there. Possibly my favorite scene in the movie, which is most of the movie. And the final fight when they're like in the fire is so good. And I love how Puss does not beat Death. He's able to fight back, defend himself, kind of get his bravado back. And as he says during one point in the fight, like basically at the end of it, he's like, I know I can't beat you, but this is my last life and I have found genuine actual meaning in it. And I am going to fight to protect it until I've lost it. And at that point, Death's like, you ruined it. Like, you ruined my fun. What I wanted was that callous, arrogant hero that cared nothing for anyone but himself, and even less for the value of his own life, who, gamble, as he literally says in his, like, big song, the hero who, like, gambles with his life. Like, that's who I wanted to reap. But you aren't that person anymore, so there's no sport in it. So go ahead. Live your life. If you found true, genuine value in it, live it to its fullest. But we'll meet each other again. It's like, yeah, we will. And, hopefully at that point, I'll have lived a good life. And they go their separate ways. And I really like that. But my favorite scene in the movie is when Puss gets the map. One of the things, it's like the Cave of Lost Souls or Cave of Former Souls, something like that. And he goes inside and he sees, in like the reflections of like the rocks and the stalagmites and shit, his other 8 lives. And at first they're all like, it's it's Puss and Boots. Yes, we had our Puss and Boots. Who's your favorite fearless hero? And they're like having a good time, and Puss is like, yeah, this is really cool, it's really fun, but I gotta go. Like, I gotta go find my homies. We're gonna get to the star and shit. And they're like, you don't need them. You're a Puss in Boots. You don't need anybody else. Just go. Get your lives back. Become the legend once again. And essentially they start bullying him at one point. Like, we should call him Wuss in Boots. I was like, I love that. Like, I actually love that. And as they're like shit-talking him for being afraid of the big bad wolf, you hear the whistle again. And they all just kind of shut up. And then he comes back and he's like, hey, been a while, been after you. And then he just starts breaking the glass. He'll like crack this life, do that one. And this is when he's explaining who he is. He's like, yeah, every time you've died, I've been there. And then he shows his sickles and there's these marks on the sickles for every time Puss has died. He's like, yeah, I've been there every time. You who laughs in the face of death. You know, I'm not really a cat person. Whole 9 lives thing, you know, it kind of flies in the face of everything I'm about. It bothers me. But you in particular, because of how you don't care about your life. You know, you gamble with your life and you laugh in the face of death. It's pretty insulting, I'm not gonna lie. So, now that you're on your last, I've come to take it. And then he posts like, wait a second. Like, if you're death, if you're the Grim Reaper, why are you after me? Like, I'm still alive. I still have this last life left. And then you got the one Puss who, like, died gambling because he, like, cheated at cards. He's like, that's cheating! And then the wolf just breaks him. He's like, yeah, but I mean... He's like, that's cheating! Don't tell. And I love that. He's like, yeah, I know I'm cheating. I know I'm early. But I'm making an example out of you. Like, you in particular just piss me off. So, I'm just going to enjoy this one. Can you let me have this? Which is what I love about their final fight, where now that Puss has found value in his life, the wolf has no reason to take him early. There is no sport. There is no, I'm going to humble him. He's all right now. I really like the theming of the movie about just the value of life. You've got it. Make the most of it. Do what you can with it. Because you're probably not going to get another one. And if you're too reckless, and if you gamble with it, you might lose it. You might lose it really early. So don't do that. Make the most of your circumstances. Make the most of the people in your life. And even if you've got like these big wishes, things you want, you know, sometimes the thing you want is really right in front of you. And yes, that's definitely themes you see in other movies, especially when wishes are involved. But it just works. I know I'm sounding like Todd Howard now, it just works, but this movie is so good. It is gorgeous in terms of its visuals. It's beautiful in terms of its theming. And its main antagonist, because I consider the wolf more of the main antagonist than Horner. Although Horner is great. He's hysterical. But its main antagonist is genuinely kind of terrifying. And I love it. Just the idea of the big bad wolf is death. Like, how did they not do that in the first Shrek movie? Instead, he's, or she, I actually don't know. I don't know if the wolf just cross-dresses, if the wolf is trans. I don't want to misgender Shrek's big bad wolf. But the wolf they just kind of chill and sit in the bed. What? That's it. And like, it's funny. I like it, but like, oh, this is so much better. This is so cool. This is the big bad wolf. And the movie ends with Puss and his homies sailing away to go see some old friends as they go to far, far away. And I'm like, bro, that hits me in a personal spot. And I know they've been talking about a Shrek 5. If this leads into Shrek 5 and it's got like that same art style that this movie had, which looked so good, and the same team of writers and the same animators, like, man, I'm gonna be really excited for Shrek 5. Oh, man. What's a good fairy tale that they haven't done yet? Like, have they done Red Riding Hood? I think Red Riding Hood's like made a cameo in Shrek 2 where like she goes to their house, screams because she sees a bunch of ogres, and that's it. Kind of surprised unless she's in like Shrek 3 and 4 and I just don't remember. Kind of surprised we haven't done more with Red Riding Hood. I am blanking on my fairy tales right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and not do any more Shrek speculation. I'm just going to cut it, but this movie's great. Go watch it. If you don't end up liking it, I'm sorry I gave you a bad recommendation. But, man, if you don't like it, let me know. Let me know why. I'd be genuinely fascinated to know why someone did not care for this movie. Because to me, we walked out of it and Clay looks at me and he's like, this is an S-tier movie. I'm like, really? That low? Because this might be the best DreamWorks movie so far. Like, I love The Prince of Egypt. I love Shrek. I love Shrek 2. But, like, this, it might be the recency bias. Like, maybe in, like, a week or two, I'll be able to reevaluate. But even then, like, I just watched Shrek 2, like, last week. That's still pretty recent. But just, man, this was so good.